Hello, my name is Jessica, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit about something that's very special to me. I had received a recipe from my grandma on her ginger cookies, or molasses cookies, as many of you may know them. They're one of my favorites, and growing up, it was something that my sister and I had done with my grandma and was very special to me, and it always reminds me of her. So I have the recipe here that she gave me, and if you're lucky, you may get a special treat a little later. But do any of you remember the smell of your grandma's kitchen, or the way she sometimes let you help her stir while she was baking, or, you know, if you were lucky, you might get to lick the spoon or stick your finger in and taste a little bit. Well, when she was finished, we usually licked the spoon, or we'd grab a few bites before she knew it, and she'd say, "Now you mustn't do that. You mustn't do that kind of stuff. Just stay out of there and wait. You mustn't do that." Well, I remember all these things from my grandma's house, especially the way the cookies tasted and all the time spent with her. It was one of my favorite memories growing up and spending time with her. My favorite things she would always bake for my sister and I were these famous ginger cookies, or like I said, the molasses cookies, as many of you may know them. We'd take turns dumping in the ingredients one at a time, and then we'd have to stir it and stir it and stir it. And then, you know, like I said, we'd sneak a little nibble. And if she caught you, she'd make that famous saying, "You mustn't do that." I do find it quite funny now when I hear her telling my niece that, or I even think of it myself. After getting all of the ingredients all mixed together, then we'd roll them into little balls and make the little balls of cookies, and we'd play with the dough a little. Then we had to put them in the sugar. You'd roll them in a little bit of sugar. It never seemed to matter to Grandma whether some balls were the size of quarters or some were the size of a baseball by chance. She didn't really care. It wouldn't affect the flavor. We would then roll the balls in the sugar, and we'd kind of flatten them down a little bit. And then, when all the sheets were full, Grandma would place them in the oven, and we would sit and wait and wait and wait for what seemed like hours as we were putting our puzzle together, and finally we'd hear the ding. That timer would go off, and that meant it was time to run for the cookies. They were done. We'd run to the oven, and we'd go looking for the cookies. Of course, you know, Grandma was saying, "Now you mustn't do that, you mustn't do that, because don't touch them, they'd be too hot." You know, we wanted to get them right away. So we'd help her, we'd take them off, and we'd wait a little while, and as soon as they cooled down, of course, we wanted some of those ginger cookies. And so we'd wait, and then we'd sit down and we'd have a little snack with Grandma. We'd have some milk and some of those famous ginger cookies. One of my favorite things to do as well in the fall with these cookies is another recipe that Grandma has very similar to that. They're a little better if you make them with sorghum, she's taught me, than to make them with the molasses. So in the fall, I go to the orchard, and usually if I have the opportunity, I get there and I make sure to pick up some sorghum, because that always means that I'm going to get a fresh batch of these sorghum molasses, or sorghum and ginger cookies. So that's always very exciting to me, even nowadays when I'm a little older than I was back then, but I still find it very exciting. So the other day I was with my younger brother and decided to test out Grandma's recipe. So I have a little treat for you, and you can let me all know how these famous ginger cookies taste.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
They're good.
Did I do okay?
Very good.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully it'll bring back some memories of when you were growing up with your grandparents or your mom, for example, and helping out in the kitchen. I know I sure enjoyed it myself, and I hope to pass it on to my siblings and to my children someday when I do have children, I guess. So, thank you.